Boring science stuff. Yeah, things I actually have a little bit of interest in. Underground air pipes. This is a technology that's been around for quite a while now. First time I ever saw it was Greenhouse in the Snow. And by the way, this is Freedom Phil. Turn up the video speed. Should be watching this when it releases about 1.75 to 2 times the speed. Why? Because video is faster. It's like this. A lot of people say, well, what do you mean underground air pipes? Are you talking about, injection well or something like that? No, it's actually really simple. An individual back in Nebraska made a greenhouse that was built into the ground, and he went down 9 or 10 feet, and he had these pipes buried down there because once you go down that far, you have a steady 50, 60 degrees year round. So he has a greenhouse that's built into the ground where he's growing citrus, like tropical fruit in Alliance, Nebraska or Scotts Bluff, one of those places over there. Look it up, Greenhouse in the Snow. And I said to myself years ago when I first saw this, I don't know if it was like 10 years ago or so, I remember when I first saw it, I said, man, if somebody was to do this with housing, and people are starting to do it, it's starting to finally catch on, where effectively, what if you were to build an underground house, or at least just a really thick house, like the house I have here, the walls are almost 2 feet thick, whether it's straw bale or they got this new particular material called hempcrete, and it's more modular and easier to deal with. I personally would prefer a house that's, either a full earth shelter, or I'd like a house that was, one of those modular design earth shelters. That way I could dig in front of me down, make that flat, and then dig into it to bury the air pipes, then dig the side of the hill up on the top to where, I could just use that dirt to cover up that dirt, and then I'd have my easy 10 feet there. And with that 10 feet of soil covering up those pipes, that's a steady 50, 60 degrees year round. Now, I don't know if you understand how incredible that is, because a lot of people would say, well, I don't want to live at 50, 60 degrees. But here's the thing. Let's say you're in a climate that is extremely cold. Like during the winter, it's like, minus 29 sometimes at night, which it got down to that here. Well, 50, 60 degrees is a lot closer to 70 than minus 29. Let's say you're in the wasteland. And this is particularly where I could see this technology working out really well. You're in the wasteland, and it's like 100, 110 degrees sometimes out there, or maybe even hotter. Now, why I bring this up for the wasteland is that if you were to build earth shelters, and you'd have to decide on the land would have to be picked quite well, because if you don't pick the correct property, you could have water issues potentially. But then again, if you built a shelter that effectively was, not an earth shelter, but a very thick shelter like your hempcrete or your straw bale house, then you could build it up above ground. It's just the reason to build an underground shelter is because then you also get that 50, 60 degrees constantly, like an underground dome shelter with the light on the top. And the reason I look at those type of designs is that from my perspective, something like that, all you need is some fans to keep it at 50, 60 degrees. You could even do a liquid solar system. And I'll talk about liquid solar another time. But with that type of deal where you only need fans, how much electricity watt-wise does it take to run the fans through a handful of 4-inch pipes? And think about it from that perspective. There's also ways you can heat using the sun and whatnot, through solar heating. I'll explain those technologies later. The reason I bring these sort of things up is that, I know this is boring science stuff, and I will get no subscribers on something like this. But everybody's always talking about this green future and a better tomorrow. Well, the first thing I'd always say is that if you want to have a better tomorrow, you should learn to retire by the age of 30 in America. And if you are thinking that's impossible, I did a live not so long ago that says how to do it. In fact, it's on a playlist, How to Retire in America by 30. Money is the first key to actually having a lot of success in this world. But past that, we need to embrace better technology. We're still living in a world that's basically locked into the 1980s. Inefficient, poorly designed things, turn dial that does not work whatsoever. And in that respect, this technology, this is perfect. You could be in the middle of nowhere. There's so much land out there in the desert that could be housing if we were to build designs like this. Semi-underground housing using air pipe technology, because it'll keep it cool. You can make all the power you need, and the excess power that you're not wasting on, natural gas, heating, propane, electricity, that excess power could be directed towards what? Maybe your electric car. That green future is within our grasp. It's just a matter that we actually take the technology we already have and use it. So I don't know, maybe someday I'll build something like this, but to be honest with you, I think all this stuff is way ahead of its time, and a lot of people would never be able to respect something this incredible. Therefore, would I be building it for me, or would I be just building it to build it? I don't know. But this is one of the technologies I would utilize if I was going to build my underground house in the middle of the wasteland. So when people say, why the wasteland? You know, honestly, I just love the cat-sized foxes that run around there. Anyhow, I'm going to go back to listen to RGE, and y'all have a great day. Remember, turn up the video speed, and if you feel like it, hit the like and subscribe. You should be watching this at least at 1.75. Peace.